I wasn't supposed to find out. Not like this. Not with three strangers laughing in my pool. Like they owned the place. The splash. The screams. The smell of chemicals. And Karen's voice echoing over the water. Like she was queen of the neighborhood. I swear. I stood there. Frozen. Watching the HOA president invite her friends. Into something I paid for. Without asking. Without guilt. Without fear. Like the rules didn't apply to her. But that day, something inside me snapped. And I did something Karen never thought I'd do. Something the HOA still talks about. Even now. Before I tell you what I did, you need to know how this whole nightmare began. Hey everyone, welcome back to HOA Stories. My name's Mark. I'm just a regular guy living in a quiet American suburb, trying to survive the craziest HOA in the world. If you've ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA, or a Karen who thinks she can walk all over you, you're going to enjoy this one. And hey, if you hate HOAs as much as I do, hit that subscribe button. Write BOOO HOA in the comments. And share this video with anyone who's ever been fined for something stupid. Alright, let's start from the very beginning. Before everything spun out of control. I wish I could tell you my pool was always a problem. But honestly, it was supposed to be my escape. My one peaceful place. Away from work. Away from noise. Away from the HOA madness. When I bought my house, the pool was the first thing I fell in love with. Deep blue water. Clean tile. Quiet backyard. Big shade trees. Perfect for summer afternoons. But that peace didn't last long. Because Karen moved in across the street. And if you've ever dealt with a Karen, you already know. She doesn't just walk into a neighborhood. She conquers it. Within 2 months, she ran for HOA president. Within 3, she won. And within 6, she was inspecting every home, including mine. Every single week. At first I ignored her. You have to. Otherwise these people eat you alive. But then the weird stuff started happening. One morning, I found sunscreen bottles by my pool. Random towels. Flip-flops. Snacks. Empty cans. Nothing extreme. But too much to be accidental. I remember walking around the edge of the water, thinking, no way, someone's using my pool. But I didn't want to accuse anyone. So I let it go. Then it happened again. Then again. Then the gate, which I always locked, was found open one day. That's when I installed cameras. Not to spy. Just to figure out what was going on. And 2 days later, I got my answer. Karen. And 3 of her friends. Walking straight into my backyard. Towels. Drinks. Floaties. Acting like they had season passes. Laughing. Slipping into my pool. Like it belonged to them. My jaw literally dropped when I watched the footage. Who does that? To a neighbor. To anyone. I expected guilt. Fear. Shame. But she wasn't embarrassed. Not even a little. She even turned. Waved at the camera. And said, "Thanks, Mark. We'll only be an hour." My blood boiled. I marched outside that day. Ready to confront her. Ready for war. But when she saw me, she didn't panic. She didn't apologize. She didn't even get out of the water. She smiled. Like a villain in a cheap drama. "Oh, relax," she said. "It's community spirit. You should be happy we're using it. It makes the neighborhood look friendlier." Friendlier. That's what she called trespassing. Friendlier. I tried to stay calm. I really did. But she kept talking. "You know," she said, "HOA rules technically allow neighbor use. If the president approves it. And I approve it." My hands literally curled into fists. Because that was a lie. A big one. Nothing in the bylaws said anything like that. She made it up. On the spot. Because she liked the power. I told her. In the firmest voice I could manage. "Get out. Don't come back. This isn't your pool. And you know it." Her smile vanished. Instantly. Like flipping off a switch. Her eyes narrowed. Her friends stopped laughing. Everything went quiet except the sound of the water. And then Karen said, with this icy tone, like she owned the whole world, "You're making a mistake, Mark. People who don't cooperate with the HOA never do well here." And that was it. They all walked out. Slow. Dramatic. Dripping all over my patio. But they didn't look sorry. Not even close. They looked amused. Like I was a joke. Like I wasn't someone to take seriously. And that stuck with me. Because I realized something. Right then. Standing by the pool. Watching water drip from the gate they'd left open. Karen wasn't just rude. She wasn't just entitled. She genuinely believed my property was her playground. And if I didn't stop her, she'd keep pushing. Further. And further. Until she owned more than just my pool. The next week, things got worse. Random violation notices. Taped to my door. Grass 1 inch too tall. Fence 2 shades too white. Mailbox too shiny. Yeah. Too shiny. Karen was sending them. Daily. Punishing me. For telling her no. She even added a final note. On a pink sticky tab. With her perfect HOA handwriting. Respect community guidelines. Or we will escalate further. Warm regards. K, smiley face. That stupid smiley face. Set me off more than anything else. Because she wasn't threatening me. She was daring me. Daring me to fight back. Daring me to challenge her power. And I'll be honest. For a moment, I thought about letting it go. Moving. Ignoring. Backing off. But then I remembered the footage. Her friends. Her laugh. Her smug tone. Her lie about HOA approval. And that's when something inside me changed. Not rage. Not fear. Strategy. If Karen wanted a game, fine. I could play too. But I wouldn't fight her the normal way. Not yelling. Not arguing. Not begging. No. I would hit her where it hurt most. Her ego. Her control. Her little HOA kingdom. And it all started with a plan so simple. So ridiculous. So perfectly ironic. That even Karen, the queen of the cul-de-sac, would never see it coming. But that came later. Because before the plan, before the chaos, before the screaming in my backyard, something else happened. Something that convinced me. Karen wasn't just trespassing. She was preparing for something bigger. Something I only figured out when I saw what she left floating in my pool. But I'll let you guess that part. If you lived here, what would you do to a neighbor who treated your private pool like a free public water park? That night, I kept replaying everything in my head. The laughter. The wet footprints. The fake violation notes. And that stupid pink sticky tab with Karen's smiley face. But what bothered me most was the thing she left floating in my pool. It wasn't trash. It wasn't a towel. It wasn't an accident. It was a laminated sign. A bright yellow one. With bold black letters that read, HOA approved pool, community use only. My heart dropped when I pulled it out of the water. Because it wasn't handwritten. It wasn't improvised. It wasn't something she made quickly. It had the official HOA logo printed on it. The same logo from our newsletters. Same font. Same colors. Same formatting. Meaning. Meaning Karen didn't just sneak into my backyard. She was preparing a narrative. A story. A lie she could spread. To make people believe the pool was shared property. I stood there. Wet sign dripping in my hands. Chest tight. Mind spinning. This wasn't petty. This wasn't just ego. She was testing the limits. Seeing how far she could push me. Seeing if I had a breaking point. And if I didn't act fast, she'd rewrite the whole neighborhood. One laminated lie at a time. I took the sign inside. Laid it on my kitchen counter. Stared at it for a long time. Then opened my laptop. Pulled up the HOA bylaws. Word by word. Line by line. Rule by rule. Looking for anything. Anything. That could be twisted into what she claimed. And guess what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even close. But something did catch my eye. A section at the bottom. Small text. Confusing legal jargon. Use of members' private amenities by non-household residents requires written consent of the property owner and scheduling forms submitted 48 hours prior. Written. Consent. Owner. Me. She needed MY permission. Not the other way around. But she wasn't asking. Because she didn't care about rules. She cared about control. That's when I realized. I didn't need to fight her with anger. I could fight her with her own rulebook. Revenge by compliance. But first, I needed to know how far she'd go. And I didn't have to wait long. The very next morning, I heard voices. In my backyard. Again. But this time, it wasn't Karen. It was two kids. Not teenagers. Little kids. Maybe 7 or 8. Splashing. Laughing. Throwing a giant inflatable donut. An MY pool. I rushed outside. Barefoot. Confused. Angry. Tired. Hey! Hey! Where are your parents? I shouted. The kids froze. Stared. Pointed toward the fence. And who stepped around the corner? Karen. Of course. Sunglasses. Clipboard. The official HOA polo. Walking like she was the queen giving a tour. Oh, good morning, Mark. She said cheerfully. Isn't it wonderful? The neighborhood kids needed a place to cool off. And since your pool is under community use, I thought. It's not, I snapped. Get them out. Now. She smirked. Careful, Mark. You're raising your voice at minors. That's an HOA violation. My jaw actually clenched so hard I thought a tooth might break. Karen. Last warning. Get them out. This is my property. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. Her smile thinned. Her tone sharpened. This behavior, this selfishness, is exactly why the HOA gave me full authority to manage community assets. And as president, I say this pool is open. Community assets. Open. 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 The word echoed. Over and over. In my head. I looked at the kids. They didn't know what was happening. They were just playing. In water. That wasn't theirs. Because Karen said it was okay. I didn't want to yell at them. Didn't want to scare them. So I took a deep breath. Forced calm. And pointed to the gate. Kids, time to go home. They left. Slowly. Confused. Heads down. While Karen watched me. With this cold. Victorious. Expression. When the gate clicked shut. She stepped closer. Leaning in. Her voice low. Her words sharp. You can't win, Mark. People like you never do. I run this neighborhood. And I'll run you out. If I have to. And then. She walked away. And for the first time, I felt something worse than anger. Determination. That was it. No more warnings. No more waiting. No more playing defense. Karen wanted a game. She just started one. Because the second she left, I went inside. Sat down. Pulled out the HOA rulebook. Printed every single page. And highlighted every clause. Every loophole. Every technicality. She ignored. If she was going to weaponize the HOA, I'd do it better. Cleaner. Smarter. But, before any plan could work, I needed proof. Something undeniable. Something she couldn't twist. So I checked the cameras again. And what I saw actually made me laugh. Not in a funny way. Not in a happy way. But in a, you have got to be kidding me, way. Because Karen, the HOA president, was caught on footage. Unlocking my gate. Letting the kids in. Then hiding behind the hedge. So the camera wouldn't catch her. Except, it did catch her. Perfect angle. Perfect timing. Perfect stupidity. She actually crouched. Behind a bush. In a bright red blouse. Like a cartoon villain. I saved the footage. Backed it up. 3 times. Uploaded it to my cloud. Sent a copy to my work email. And saved one on a USB drive. Just in case. Now I had proof. Now I had leverage. Now I had fuel. I wasn't scared of Karen anymore. I was focused. Locked in. Ready. But something still bothered me. That laminated sign. The fake community use idea. The sudden kids. The sneaking. The lies. Karen wasn't doing this randomly. There was a plan. A bigger goal. Something she wasn't telling anyone. And I finally figured out what it was. When I heard her voice. Through my open window. Later that afternoon. She was talking to another HOA board member. Laughing. Whispering. Saying things like, if we classify his pool as an extension of the HOA rec area, we can raise community fees. Increase property inspections. And I didn't hear the rest. But I didn't need to. She wasn't using my pool. She was trying to claim it, turn it into HOA-controlled property, so she could increase her own power. And suddenly, everything made sense. The trespassing, the kids, the lies, the laminated sign, the threats, the fake violations. She wasn't just being a Karen. She was building a case, one fake rule at a time. And I realized, if I wanted to win, I couldn't just fight back. I needed something bigger, something she couldn't twist, something that would blow up her entire plan in one move. And I knew exactly where to start. But before I tell you that, let me ask you something. If you caught an HOA president trying to secretly take over your private pool, would you confront her publicly or destroy her plan quietly from the inside? I didn't sleep that night, not because I was scared, but because my mind wouldn't shut off. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Karen, smirking in my backyard, acting like she owned my pool, my home, my peace. And every time I thought about the footage, her crouching behind that hedge, sneaking kids into my yard, planting fake community-use signs, a new thought hit me. A darker one. A smarter one. If she's willing to lie this badly, what else is she hiding? People like Karen don't stop at one power grab. They build an empire, one rule at a time. And I wasn't about to let her build it on top of me. So the next morning, I started phase 1. Quiet. Careful. Invisible. I walked to the HOA office. Not to confront her. Not to make noise. But to get the documents. The real ones. Not the fake versions she printed for the neighborhood. The place was empty. The door unlocked. A terrible idea for someone who loved control. I stepped inside. Filtered sunlight glowing through dusty blinds. Stacks of newsletters. Old meeting notes. Boxes of unused HOA stickers. And the master binder. Big. Black. Heavy. The one containing yearly agendas. Financial reports. And property classifications. Exactly what I needed. I flipped it open. Pages stiff. Smelling like cheap ink and bad decisions. I skimmed fast. Looking for anything that connected to my pool. Nothing. 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 Then, halfway through, I froze. There it was. Highlighted. Starred. Marked with Karen's handwriting. Potential classification, shared neighborhood recreation feature, pending president review. Pending president review. Not board review. Not community review. President review. She wrote it herself. She planned it herself. And she approved it herself. A one-woman dictatorship. My stomach tightened. Not because I was scared, but because I realized how close she was to actually changing my property status. Without permission. Without votes. Without legality. She was inches from claiming ownership. On paper. Even if it wasn't real. And then the next page hit me harder. A draft of new rules. Not published yet. Not shared yet. Not finalized. But sitting there. Printed. Ready. Like she was preparing to release them any day. Rule number 14. I still remember every word. Homeowners with private amenities may be subject to community access requirements during peak season to support neighborhood wellness and inclusivity. Inclusivity. Wellness. Peak season. HOA words for we want your stuff. I leaned back. Hands shaking. Not with fear. But disbelief. She wasn't trying to steal my pool. She was trying to legalize the theft. Before anyone could complain. And there. At the bottom. Her signature. Already on the draft. But no one else had signed. No approval. No votes. No board consent. Meaning, if I exposed her, if I caught her pushing unauthorized changes, if I showed the community what she was doing, her presidency would be over. Gone. Done. And that was when the plan formed. Not loud. Not violent. Not obvious. A plan built. On silence. On patience. On timing. Because Karen was good at being dramatic. But terrible at being careful. And she proved it. 10 minutes later. While I was still inside the HOA office. Still flipping through her illegal drafts. Still collecting evidence. The door opened. And there she was. Karen. Walking in. With her giant iced coffee. And her Live Laugh Love HOA tote bag. Her actual bag. I'm not joking. We locked eyes. Her smile froze. Her coffee stopped mid-swing. Her sunglasses slid down her nose. Like she just caught a raccoon digging in her trash. Mark. What? What are you doing here? Her tone cracked. Just a little. Not enough for panic. But enough for suspicion. I didn't flinch. I closed the binder gently. Stood up slowly. And said, looking for answers. She blinked fast. Forced the smile back on. Too wide. Too tight. Well, you should have emailed me first. We have a system. We don't want homeowners digging through confidential paperwork. It causes misunderstandings. I cut her off. This is public record, Karen. Legally accessible. To any homeowner. And you know it. Her lips pressed together. Hard. Then. She walked closer. Heel clicks echoing. Trying to intimidate. Trying to take control. What exactly were you looking for? She asked. There it was. Fear. Hidden. Quiet. But there. I gave her the calmest smile I could. And said. Just checking on pool-related regulations. Her shoulders tightened. Her posture stiffened. Her face went pale. She knew. She knew. I found something. She didn't ask which documents. Didn't ask what pages. Didn't ask anything. Instead, she grabbed the binder from my hands. Snapped it shut. Clutched it like gold. Next time. Ask permission, she hissed. This office is for HOA staff only. HOA staff? I said. You mean you? Her jaw twitched. One day, Mark. You'll learn that respect goes a long way. In this community. And then she left. Stormed out. Binder in hand. Door slamming so loud the walls shook. I exhaled slowly. My heart pounding. Adrenaline rushing. Because she didn't know. I already photographed every page. Every signature. Every illegal draft. Her plan. Was already in my phone. Saved. Protected. Backed up. She couldn't erase it now. But I still wasn't done. Because just having evidence wasn't enough. I needed to know why she wanted my pool so badly. Money? Power? Control? Reputation? Or something more personal? So I followed her. Not in a creepy way. Not hiding. Just walking down the sidewalk. Heading in the same direction. She didn't notice. She was too busy yelling on her phone. I heard fragments. Sharp. Angry. Fast. No. He saw the binder. He's not supposed to have access yet. I don't care what the bylaws say. We're doing it with or without him. With. Or. Without. Me. Meaning. She had partners. People helping her. People backing her up. Not the whole HOA. But someone. Someone close. Someone with something to gain. And my stomach twisted. Because if she wasn't acting alone, this was bigger. Much bigger. Than trespassing. She hung up. Stormed into her house. Slamming the door behind her. And for the first time, I wondered what else she had planned. What else she wanted. What she was willing to take. Because Karen wasn't just overstepping. She was preparing for something. A bigger move. A final play. Something that involved more than my pool. And I realized, if I didn't act soon, she might actually pull it off. But I had one advantage. One thing Karen didn't expect. I wasn't going to confront her like last time. I wasn't going to yell. Or demand. Or threaten. I was going to do something she never imagined. I was going to use the entire neighborhood against her. Quietly. Perfectly. Strategically. But before I move to that part of the story, let me ask you, if you found proof your HOA president was secretly signing illegal documents, would you expose her publicly? Or wait and let her dig her own grave? The HOA board thought they had one. Sabrina walked around the neighborhood like she owned every square foot of concrete, every blade of grass, every drop of water in my pool. The other board members followed her like shadows: Carla, the whispering gossip line; Myron, the accountant with the dead-eyed smile; and Janice, who kept every HOA violation letter in a binder like trophies. But something shifted after the sheriff's visit. They no longer smiled as confidently. Their meetings became quieter, shorter, and disturbingly secretive. And then, something happened that changed everything. Not because of me. Not because of the sheriff. Not because of the women who trespassed again. No. The truth came out because the HOA sabotaged the wrong person, one of their own favorites. It was a Thursday, almost 10 p.m. The neighborhood was unusually still. Usually, you could hear sprinklers clicking or dogs barking or some neighbor revving up his truck. But that night, silence, like the whole street was holding its breath. I was in my kitchen reviewing security footage from earlier that day when I noticed something weird. My camera picked up lights flashing through my blinds, followed by muffled yelling. At first I thought, trespassers again? HOA goons returning? Or worse, something involving the sheriff. But when I stepped outside, what I saw made my stomach drop. A black SUV with its hazard lights on was parked halfway across the cul-de-sac. And next to it, crying on the curb, was Tessa, Sabrina's closest friend and one of her most loyal pool guests. The HOA trio, Sabrina, Carla, and Myron, stood around her, hissing under their breath. But the moment they noticed I came outside, their faces froze like they'd been caught burying something. I didn't speak first. Tessa did. Her voice cracked like glass. You set me up. You told me it was safe. Sabrina immediately snapped, lower your voice. This is not the time. Tessa shoved Sabrina's hand away. I almost got arrested because of you. They traced the noise complaint, the trespassing reports, and the pool violation straight to me. You gave them my name. Suddenly the entire puzzle snapped into place. The HOA had been using Tessa, a gullible, easily controlled loyalist, as their legal buffer, filing violations and complaints under her name so the board would stay clean. It was dirty, typical HOA strategy, but this time, they pushed the wrong person too far. The HOA fractures. Carla tried to intervene. Tessa, sweetheart, listen, you agreed. I agreed to nothing, she shouted. Her mascara was smeared down her cheeks. She was shaking. You said if I let you use my name, you'd erase my HOA fines, my late fees. You even said you'd approve my backyard shed. I trusted you. Sabrina's lips tightened. She wasn't angry. She was worried. Terrified, even. Because Tessa wasn't just yelling at them. She was yelling loud enough for the entire block, including me, to hear. Myron stepped forward like he was trying to regain control. Nobody forced you. You benefited from this arrangement. Tessa screamed, they interrogated me. They told me someone in the HOA was using me, and they want me to testify. The word testify might as well have detonated a grenade. Sabrina spun around, scanning the street like she was looking for cameras, reporters, FBI agents, whoever. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but I still heard it. We need to get inside. Now. Before anyone else. I stepped forward deliberately. Before anyone else what, Sabrina? They all snapped toward me with identical stiff expressions. She swallowed hard. This isn't your business. I raised a slow eyebrow. You framed one of your own neighbors and hid behind her name. It feels like all of this is my business now. Tessa looked at me like I was a life raft. Her voice trembled. Can I talk to you? You have cameras, right? You saw things? Sabrina exploded. Tessa, no. The moment the board lost control. Tessa ignored her and walked straight toward me. Not stumbling. Not crying anymore. Just furious. My lawyer said if I had any proof of what the HOA did, I should collect it. Your cameras, they caught the trespassing. They caught Sabrina's people. They probably caught her too. She pointed directly at Sabrina. Sabrina's face went sheet white. Carla whispered urgently, Sabrina, we need to go. But Tessa wasn't done. They told me during questioning that someone has been watching this HOA for months. That the sheriff's office has been quietly building a case. You people dragged me into something you knew was illegal. Myron snapped, stop talking. No, she said louder. I'm done being your puppet. Then she turned to me. I want the footage. All of it. Whatever you have. I gestured toward my driveway. We can talk inside. You look exhausted. But the moment she stepped toward my house. Sabrina lunged forward and grabbed her arm. You're not going anywhere with him. Tessa jerked away. Why? Afraid he'll tell me the truth? Sabrina stared at me with this icy, unblinking challenge. You don't want to involve yourself in this. I smirked. Sabrina, you involved me the second your people climbed into my pool. She flinched, and that told me everything. The confrontation intensifies. The cul-de-sac was dead silent. Even the wind had stopped. Tessa stepped onto my property line like she was crossing a border. Sabrina snapped. Fine. Go. But don't come crying to us when this blows up in your face. Tessa turned back toward her, and for the first time, she wasn't scared. You mean blow up in yours? Carla muttered something under her breath. Myron paced, rubbing his temples like this stress might physically crack him open. Sabrina realized she was losing control. She straightened her posture, looked right at me, and said the last thing I expected. You think you're the hero here? You're not. You're just a neighbor with a camera. You have no idea what you're stepping into. I took a small step closer, keeping my voice calm. Then enlighten me. For the first time in all this chaos. Sabrina hesitated. Not because she didn't want to speak. Because she couldn't. Her eyes darted between Carla, Myron, and the dark street behind us like she expected someone else to appear. Someone above her. Someone pulling her strings. Suddenly, her voice dropped almost to a whisper, but shaky, like a dam about to break. You don't know who started this. I frowned. What does that mean? She blinked rapidly, anxiety bleeding through her usual confidence. But then. Carla hissed, Sabrina. Not. Here. Myron grabbed her arm. Get in the SUV. Now. They practically dragged her away. The three board members scrambled into the black SUV like they were fleeing a crime scene, leaving Tessa and me alone on the street. The SUV sped off into the night. And all that remained was silence. Tessa took a deep breath and turned to me. Can you help me? Because I think the HOA started something bigger than any of us realized. And I think they're hiding something. The porch light flickered. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. And I had no idea that this moment, right here, was the beginning of the real story. If you think the HOA board is villainous now, wait until you hear what they were actually hiding. Tell me in comments. Inside my house, Tessa sat on the edge of the couch, hugging a throw blanket around her shoulders like it was a shield. Her hands were still trembling, but her voice had clarity, the kind that comes after a person finally snaps out of manipulation. I placed a cup of water beside her. She didn't drink it. She stared at my living room floor like she was trying to replay the last 6 months of her life and judge every decision she ever made. Take your time, I said quietly. She shook her head. No. I need to talk now. Before I lose my nerve again. And just like that, the dam burst. The first secret, Sabrina wasn't the real problem. You think Sabrina is the villain, she began. And she is, but she's not the mastermind. That caught me off guard. I leaned forward. If not her, then who? Tessa swallowed hard. There's someone above the HOA. Someone pulling strings. Someone using Sabrina, using the entire board, for leverage. Leverage for what? She twisted the blanket between her fingers. For money. For access. For control over the properties here. My eyebrows lifted. Control? Like buying houses? She nodded slowly. Buying, but not legally. I felt a cold chill crawl down my spine. What does that mean? She finally looked at me, and the fear in her eyes wasn't just fear of Sabrina anymore. There's a man, she whispered. Name's Harlan West. I had never heard that name in my life. But the way she said it, the weight behind it. I knew I didn't want to. Harlan West, the shadow behind the HOA. Tessa continued, voice trembling. He doesn't live here. He doesn't attend meetings. Most neighbors don't even know he exists. But Sabrina? She answers to him. Everything she does, every fine, every violation, every pressure tactic, it's all for his benefit. I frowned deeply. Why would someone like that care about this neighborhood? Because this land, our entire subdivision, sits in the middle of a place he's trying to control. He wants property. Lots of it. And if residents feel pressured, harassed, or financially cornered, they're easier to push out. My anger simmered. So you're saying the HOA isn't just being controlling? They're purposely making life miserable to force people to sell? Her voice cracked. Exactly. And Sabrina is the one enforcing it. Because he protects her, she said. And because she thinks she's untouchable. I thought back to Sabrina's words earlier that night. You don't know who started this. Now it made sense. I dragged a hand across my face, processing. What about the pool trespassing? How does that fit? Tessa hesitated, and that hesitation told me the answer wasn't simple. That wasn't Sabrina's idea, she finally whispered. I froze. What? That was Harlan's people. He wanted leverage against you. He wanted to provoke you, get videos of you reacting, maybe get the HOA to build a case. Why? I've never met this man. You have something he wants, she whispered. Your property is one of only 3 in this neighborhood with unrestricted backyard access. It borders the greenway he's after. I stared at her. Suddenly everything was starting to make sense. All the fake violations. All the sudden attention. All the harassment. This wasn't about rules. It was about taking my home. The folder and the nightmare inside it. What else do you know? I asked. Tessa took a deep breath, then reached for her purse. From inside it, she pulled out a thick manila folder, wrinkled, bent at the corners, smudged by fingerprints. I wasn't supposed to have this, she said. I only saw it because Sabrina left it in her car one night. I took pictures. I panicked. I shouldn't have, but I needed proof. She handed it to me. My heartbeat sped up as I opened the folder. Inside were unfamiliar papers. Not HOA documents. Not violation logs. Not community reports. But property acquisition files. Deeds. Blueprints. Maps of our entire subdivision with certain houses highlighted in red. Mine was one of them. What is all this? I asked. Tessa pointed. That's the list of homes Harlan wants to acquire. And the red houses? Those are the ones the HOA is supposed to pressure first. My stomach twisted. You're telling me the HOA is part of a buyout scheme? She nodded. And residents don't even know it. There were emails too, printed conversations between Sabrina and someone labeled simply as HW. The messages chilled me. Start with petty violations. If he resists, escalate. We need that house cleared by spring. Use the women again if needed. I closed the folder. My pulse hammered. This was no longer just an HOA issue. This was corruption. This was a conspiracy. This was someone trying to take my home. The second secret, what Tesla never told anyone. Tessa pressed her hands together. There's more, she whispered. And this is the part I've never told anyone. I braced myself. She leaned in closer, her voice shaking. Sabrina didn't just use my name. She used my house. I blinked. What? She had Harlan's men use my place as a staging point. They'd park there, walk through my backyard, and sneak into yours. I felt bile rise in my throat. So the trespassers weren't neighborhood girls looking for fun? No, she whispered. They were hired. Paid. They weren't even from here. They were instructed to create chaos, make you look unstable, reactive, like a problem. I clenched my fists. This wasn't just harassment. This was a targeted campaign. And Sabrina threatened me, Tessa continued. She said if I told anyone, she'd file liens against my home. And she'd tell Harlan I wasn't cooperating. I swallowed hard. What would Harlan do if you didn't cooperate? Her voice was barely a breath. He'd force me out. The sheriff, the piece that didn't fit. But where does the sheriff come in? I asked. Tessa hesitated. You're not supposed to know this, but... She took a long breath. They've been monitoring Harlan for months. That shocked me. What? Why? Because he's not just some wealthy guy buying land. He's been linked to shady real estate deals, fraudulent acquisitions, even extortion. I stared at her. She nodded slowly. The sheriff's office has been watching him. That's why they came so fast that day. They were waiting for Sabrina to slip. I leaned back. Everything was starting to click. This goes deeper than I realized, I murmured. Tessa wiped her eyes. You have no idea. The final reveal, and the beginning of war. I closed the folder, exhaled slowly, and stood. Tessa, you did the right thing. But now you need to make a choice. She tensed. What choice? You can stay scared, or you can help me bring them down. Her expression softened, fear giving way to something else. Resolve. I'm tired of being bullied, she whispered. I'll help you. I nodded. But we need to be careful. Sabrina's not going to sit quietly after tonight. Tessa looked toward the window, voice trembling again. She won't be the problem. I frowned. Then who? Her eyes met mine with a fear I had not yet seen in her. Harlan, she whispered. If he finds out I talked, he'll come for both of us. A shiver crawled through me. Because deep down, I knew she was right. If you think the HOA was bad before, wait a moment. That's where Harlan himself steps into the story, and everything, the neighborhood, the board, even my safety, flips upside down. Sleep didn't happen that night. Not for me. Not for Tessa. Not for the neighborhood, honestly, because the whole place felt different now. Like the air itself knew something was coming. Tessa curled up on the couch with a blanket still wrapped around her like armor, drifting in and out of exhausted half-sleep. Every shadow made her eyes flutter open. Every creak made her stiffen. And me? I sat at the dining table with that cursed manila folder in front of me. The documents. The maps. The emails. All of it. I read through them again and again even though the words were already burned into my brain. Pressure him. Escalate. We need that house. Use the women again. Clear by spring. It was a blueprint for theft. Not burglary. Not breaking and entering. Something worse. A legal theft. A loophole theft. A theft done with signatures and lies instead of crowbars. And it was signed. H.W. Harlan West. I didn't know his face yet. But by morning, I would. The message on my doorbell cam. Around 4:30 a.m., when the sky was still charcoal and the street outside was silent, my phone buzzed. Motion detected, front door. I grabbed it, expecting maybe a raccoon. But when the video loaded, my blood froze. A man, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket, stepped right up to my camera. Not like he was trying to hide. Like he wanted me to know he was there. He leaned in close. Too close. Even in the grainy night footage, I could see his smirk. He tapped my doorbell lens with one finger. Slow. Possessive. Almost playful. Then he said, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." My heart slammed into my ribs. The voice was calm. Deep. Confident. A man who wasn't scared of anything or anyone. He continued. "Let's talk tomorrow. 5 p.m. Your place. Don't keep me waiting." Then he stepped back and vanished into the dark. No name. No threats. No intimidation on the surface. But the message was clear. He knew where I lived. He had been watching. And he was done hiding. I replayed the clip 3 times before my hands stopped shaking. That was Harlan. Had to be. Tessa's fear was different this time. When I showed her the video, she didn't speak. She didn't gasp. She didn't scream. She just folded inward. Her hands slipped into her sleeves. Her shoulders curled. Her breathing turned shallow. "Tessa?" I said softly. "Talk to me." Her voice came out small. "That's him." "You're sure?" She nodded, eyes locked on the frozen frame of his face. "I only met him once," she whispered. "Sabrina made me go with her. He talked to her like she was an employee. He talked to me like I was furniture. Cold. Empty. But his eyes, those eyes." She shivered. "I'll never forget them." I sat beside her. "We're not facing him alone." "You think the sheriff will help?" she asked. I hesitated. And she saw the hesitation. "Great," she muttered, rubbing her temples. "So we're completely screwed." "Not screwed," I said. "Cornered, maybe. But not defeated." She shot me a tired, sarcastic look. "Fantastic. Can't wait to see your positive thinking TED Talk after we both get evicted." Despite everything, I snorted. And that tiny laugh, just one breath of normalcy, felt like a miracle. The hoodie man in the street. Around 7 a.m., sunlight barely rising, I stepped outside to breathe real air and immediately noticed something off. A man in a gray hoodie was standing across the street. Perfectly still. Hands in pockets. Face down. Not looking at a phone. Not stretching. Not waiting for a dog. Just standing. Watching my house. I turned slowly. He didn't move. I took one step toward him. He shifted, not away, but angled slightly, like he was preparing to approach. A sharp instinct kicked in. I stepped back onto my porch. He stopped moving. We stared at each other across the quiet street until a car drove by, and when it passed, he was gone. No footsteps. No car door. Just vanished. I stood frozen for almost a full minute. This wasn't paranoia. They were watching. They were making sure I didn't run. They wanted to know if I caved before 5 p.m. The call that shouldn't have come. At 9 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I never answer unknown numbers. But today, everything was different. Hello? I said. A familiar voice replied. You need protection. My chest tightened. It was the sheriff. How do you know about? He cut me off. I know more than you think. And I know exactly who was at your door last night. So it was Harlan. What does he want? I asked. A pause. Then. Leverage. Control. And if he can't get that, he'll go for fear. I paced the living room. What am I supposed to do? Meet him? No, the sheriff said sharply. That's exactly what he wants. He isolates people. Makes them desperate. Pushes them to agree to terms they'd never accept in daylight. Then help me, I snapped. You guys have been watching him, right? Do something. Another pause, longer this time. We're close, he said. But not close enough. One wrong move and we lose our chance. I exhaled hard. So what do I do? You turn him down. Calmly. Firmly. And whatever happens next, don't escalate. Can you keep us safe? A heavy sigh. I can't promise that. But I can promise this, you're not alone, even if it feels like it. And then he hung up. 5 o'clock arrived like a storm. All day long, time moved strange. Fast. Slow. Like the universe was pulling the clocks in opposite directions. Tessa stayed inside, pacing. I checked the locks 5 times. At 4:50 p.m., the neighborhood grew eerily quiet. No kids. No dogs. No lawnmowers. Just silence. Like everyone knew something was happening. Like everyone was hiding. By 4:58, my palms were sweating. By 4:59, my heartbeat was loud enough to drown out the world. And exactly as the clock struck 5:00, a black Escalade rolled down the street. Not speeding. Not stopping. Just gliding, like it owned the pavement. It pulled up directly in front of my house. The passenger door opened. And the man from the doorbell cam stepped out. Harlan West. Tall. Immaculate. Dark jacket. Clean boots. Eyes like cold glass, no warmth, no confusion, no doubt. He walked toward me with the steady, confident pace of someone who had never been told no in his life. I didn't move. That seemed to amuse him. He reached the bottom of my steps, clasped his hands casually behind his back, and smiled like this was a friendly neighborhood chat. Well, he said smoothly. Let's talk. The smirk that told me everything. Whatever you're doing, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. It ends today. You're not buying my house. You're not pushing me out. And you're not using my pool or my privacy for any of this. His smile didn't move. Not even a millimeter. He tilted his head. You think this is about a house? I frowned. What is it about then? He stepped closer, too close. Then he whispered. It's about the land under it. A chill crawled down my spine. He continued. And land has no loyalty. I clenched my jaw. He steadied my face for a moment, then leaned back, amused. You're stubborn, he said. I like that. Makes the game interesting. This isn't a game. Oh, everything is a game, he replied softly. Sabrina plays hers. Tessa plays hers. You're playing yours. The only difference. He tapped the railing of my porch. Is that I never lose? I stared at him, disgust rising. You don't scare me. That was a lie, but I said it anyway. He smiled wider. You should be. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out something that made my breath stop. A folder. Just like the one Tessa stole. He held it up between 2 fingers. Since you've seen my plans, he murmured. Let's make things simple. He opened it. My eyes widened. Inside were my property deed, photos of my house, photos of me, and a printed message. Proposed transfer, 30 days. I stepped back. What is this? His voice dipped lower. It's what happens next if you refuse. The warning that changed everything. Tessa suddenly appeared behind the door. She didn't say anything. But Harlan noticed. His smile sharpened. Ah. The little witness. Tessa froze. He continued. Be careful who you trust, he said softly. People who fold once often fold again. My fists tightened. That's enough. He closed the folder, tucked it away, and backed down the steps. 30 days, he said calmly. Enjoy them. He walked toward his Escalade. Before getting in, he turned his head slightly and said one last thing. Next time I come, I won't be alone. Then his car disappeared down the street, leaving the world suddenly colder, smaller, and much, much more dangerous. If someone like Harlan gave you 30 days to leave your own home, would you fight back? Or would you run? 30 days. It sounded like a long time on paper. But when someone like Harlan West says it, it feels like a countdown to your own eviction. Every morning after that confrontation, I woke up expecting something new. A fake violation. A bogus lien. A stranger watching from the street. A car parked too long. A drone in the backyard. A note taped on my garage. Some days there was nothing. Some days there was too much. But the most unsettling part? None of it came from Sabrina anymore. No calls. No emails. No fines. Nothing. The HOA ghosted me completely. Which meant one thing. Sabrina wasn't in charge anymore. Not even pretending. This was officially Harlan's show. And I was the main act. The first hit, and IT wasn't from the HOA. Day 3 of the countdown, I got a letter. Not from the HOA. Not from Sabrina. Not from any office connected to the neighborhood. It was from a private real estate firm in the next county. Inside was a friendly offer. We understand you may be considering relocation. We're prepared to offer well above market value for your home. Please respond within 48 hours. It wasn't a request. It was a pressure tactic dressed as opportunity. I tossed the letter aside. On day 5, another letter arrived, higher offer, more urgent tone. Day 6, a third. Day 7, a fourth, from a different company. By day 10, 4 companies had coincidentally tried to buy my home. They weren't companies. They were Harlan's puppets. He wasn't hiding the pressure anymore. He wanted me out. And he wanted it fast. The second hit, a night visit. Around day 12, at nearly 2 a.m., a car rolled slowly down my street. Lights off. Engine low. Silent. It stopped in front of my house. I watched from the window. My pulse was hammering. The car sat there for nearly 3 minutes. Then a door opened. And someone stepped out. It wasn't Harlan. It wasn't Sabrina. It wasn't a stranger. It was the hoodie man I had seen before. This time, he wasn't watching from afar. He walked straight up my driveway. Stopped in front of my garage. Pulled something from his pocket. And placed it on the ground. Then he left. The car disappeared. I waited a full 10 minutes before opening the door. On the concrete lay a single sheet of paper held down by a stone. I picked it up with shaking hands. On it was a message. You have 18 days left. No name. But the handwriting? I recognized it. It was the same handwriting from the folder Harlan showed me. He wanted fear. He was getting closer. Tesla's strength and her final choice. During all this, Tessa barely left my house. She showered here. She slept here. She stayed close to the windows and jumped at every sound. But something about her was changing too. She wasn't collapsing in fear anymore. She wasn't curling into a blanket. She was angry now. Raw, alive, burning angry. I'm tired of being scared, she said one morning, slamming her coffee on the counter. I'm tired of letting them own my life. I'm tired of Sabrina and her stupid HOA mask. I'm tired of Harlan thinking he can control the world. And I'm tired of hiding like a child. Her voice cracked. But mostly, I'm tired of letting them win. She looked at me with fire in her eyes. I want to fight. And I believed her. That wasn't the scared girl who knocked on my door that night. This was someone who'd been pushed too far and snapped back sharper than the people who tried to break her. The sheriff's call and the turning point. On day 15, the sheriff called again. No greeting. Just urgency. Keep Tessa close, he said. My heart dropped. What's going on? We're moving on Harlan tonight. My breath caught. Tonight? Tonight, he repeated. But you need to understand, if he senses what we're doing, if he panics, if he reaches for control. He paused. He'll try something. Like what? I asked. But his answer was the one I feared most. Anything. I swallowed hard. Are we safe? A long silence. Then. Stay inside. And don't answer the door for anyone. The call ended. The night it happened. Around 11:40 p.m., the neighborhood lights flickered. Then another flicker. Then everything went dark. Power out. Complete blackout. I heard Tessa suck in a sharp breath. Not the HOA. Not Sabrina. This was Harlan. He was making a statement. Then, in the quiet darkness, footsteps echoed outside. Slow. Controlled. Deliberate. I peeked through the blinds. A black SUV was parked across the street. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Stay behind me, I whispered. The footsteps came closer. Up my driveway. Toward my porch. Toward my door. A shadow loomed. Then a soft knock. Not pounding. Not aggressive. Just confident. 3 taps. I knew that knock. Tessa's hand slipped into mine. I opened the door. And there he was. Harlan West. No smile this time. No smirk. No arrogance. Just cold, unfiltered intent. You're making mistakes, he said calmly. You too, I replied. He tilted his head. I warned you. I don't fold, I said. He exhaled slowly, the kind of exhale someone gives before doing something irreversible. Then, red and blue lights exploded across the street. Dozens of them. Sirens roared. Engines revved. Doors slammed. Sheriff's office. Nobody move. Harlan froze. Just for a second. Then his jaw tightened. He turned. 3 unmarked trucks screeched to a stop. Officers poured out. Guns drawn. Lights blinding. Voices overlapping. Hands where we can see them. Step away from the house. Do it now. Tessa grabbed my arm. I held onto her like my life depended on it. Harlan slowly raised his hands. The sheriff himself approached him. You overplayed your hand, Harlan. Harlan didn't turn to look at him. Instead, he looked at me. You think this changes anything? He whispered. This changes everything, I said. And I meant it. Officers cuffed him. Searched him. Escorted him toward the vehicles. That was when Sabrina ran out of her house screaming. I didn't do anything. He made me. I didn't know. It was pathetic. Desperate. Nobody listened. 2 deputies grabbed her and read her rights. As they led her away, her eyes locked onto mine. This is your fault, she screamed. All of it. She was wrong. It was hers. And Harlan's. And it was finally over. The aftermath and the truth. Everything unraveled after that. Harlan's connections. His puppet companies. His real estate schemes. His illegal coercion. His threats. His pressure tactics. His manipulation of HOA boards across multiple neighborhoods. It all came out. Tessa testified. Other residents came forward. The sheriff's office released statements. People learned what the quiet streets had been hiding. It shook the whole county. The HOA board collapsed overnight. Sabrina lost everything. Everything. And for the first time in months, I breathed without fear. Tesla's decision and the end of our story. 2 weeks after the arrests, Tessa stood in my driveway. Sun on her face. Hair finally brushed. Eyes not haunted anymore. I'm leaving, she said softly. I frowned. Leaving town? She nodded. This place has too many ghosts for me. I want a fresh start. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere safe. Somewhere normal. I smiled gently. You deserve that. She stepped closer and hugged me, tight, warm, real. You saved me, she whispered. You saved yourself, I replied. She pulled back, wiping tears. Promise me something? Anything. Never let people like them win. I nodded. I won't. She got into her car. And for the first time, she drove away without fear chasing her. The end, but not the real end. The HOA is gone now. The neighborhood is peaceful again. The pool is quiet. My house is mine. But sometimes, late at night, I still replay the moment Harlan whispered. Next time I come, I won't be alone. He won't be coming back. Not now. Not ever. But the memory of his shadow? That stays. Maybe to remind me. You don't really know your neighborhood. Until someone tries to take it from you. End of part 7, audience engagement line. If your HOA ever pulled something like this, would you expose them? Or would you pack your bags and disappear?